She's there. Get your butt in here. We need you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Over the Years. If you guys aren't subscribed already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button. We are in Hancock, Maryland. We're about an hour and 40 minutes from our house in DC. And if you guys saw our last video, the reason we are here is because we are emptying out our antique flea market booth. We are officially moving out. And we'll talk about why and all that stuff as we go, in the last video. But since we're here, we might as well do some shopping. So let's go ahead and go inside and see if we can find any bargains while we're here to resell for a profit. So let's go ahead and go inside, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, we are walking through the antique mall. We're going to start off our shopping expedition right by where my booth used to be. As you can see, we are here shopping after we cleaned out my booth. I'm obviously familiar with this antique mall, so for me it's a little bit how I navigate through here, starting from my own booth. First thing we see is this milk glass mug. Didn't really amount to much, but I want to use this opportunity to kind of give you guys some tips and tricks throughout for sourcing in the antique mall, and then if I see anything while I'm shopping, to kind of give you guys a little bit of information on it to keep an eye out for it if you see it out in the wild, whether a yard sale, estate sale, or a thrift store. So milk glass mugs with the right items and themes on them can be worth really good money. I've sold a couple of milk glass mugs for almost $100 a piece, so definitely something to keep your eye out for when you're out sourcing. I'm trying my best to find items in this antique mall that I can flip for a profit. Sometimes it can be difficult inside antique malls. The first item that we actually pick up is this pair of these Fenton candlestick holders. So this is Fenton 848. They are 3-toe candlestick holders. They are in the ebony or black amethyst colorway. And I think I paid between $4 and $6 for the pair. And you guys can see those can go for anywhere between $20 and $30. So that was a good pickup from. You see, I did pick up this spaghetti string glass. If you guys ever find the spaghetti string glasses and or pitcher in the wild, those can go for good money. I have sold a couple of sets of those over time, so definitely something to keep your eye out for. The next thing that kind of caught my attention was this mid-century modern barware set. Now with these barware sets, it's important that you kind of really look at it from the overall picture. The price on this wasn't necessarily too bad, but when I really looked at the items, I could see that there was a lot of gold wear to the gold paint on these, and it was pretty obvious throughout some of the pieces. So for me, at that price point, picking that amount of glass up in one set and having that amount of wear just didn't equate to being a good buy. So we ended up passing on the mid-century modern barware set. And you can see this is an antique mall / flea market mall, so there will be a variety of items and booths throughout. But sometimes these malls, particular style of malls, can be good because sometimes you can really find some good bargains here. But there are professional dealers and vendors in this mall as well. So a lot of this stuff can be priced pretty pricey, sometimes even higher than eBay prices. So the next booth that we kind of really stopped at and investigated was this booth that had a really awesome Amberina setup here on this shelf. So a lot of different styles and pieces of Amberina glass. They had some Viking in this on this shelf. They had some L.E. Smith. They had some Fenton. They had some Kanawha. So there was a nice variety. And I'm a big fan of Amberina glass. A lot of this Amberina glass will glow under a black light as well. So up next, I did find this booth. They had, you guys know I'm a sucker for lamps. I'm a sucker for lighting, whether it's shades or anything of that. You could see there's a couple of really beautiful lamps here. Unfortunately, they were like well over $200. So even at the 10% off price, it just was not something that was feasible for me to obtain and flip for a profit. Also in this booth, I did pick up that clock. It kind of had that Art Deco-y vibe, but I flipped it over and realized quickly that it was a repop clock. Sometimes those can still sell for good money, but you have to get them at the really good price. I've sold that particular clock before as a repop in a turquoise color, but I picked that up at a yard sale for really cheap. So big difference there in that sort of situation. Another thing that you can keep your eye out for inside of antique malls is clothing. A lot of times, unless it's a specific clothing booth, you know, with like high-end vintage stuff, whether it's male or female, men's or women's clothing. But sometimes you can find some really good deals here. I found some vintage Woolrich for like $5 that I sold for really good money at this same exact antique mall. My buddy Cernock has found some really nice hats, and we'll talk about some hats in a little bit. But I did come across this Disney MGM Studios t-shirt. It was single stitch. It was in fantastic condition. They had $15 on it, and you could see the comp on the screen. Unfortunately, it did not make sense for me. They were selling for probably around $30. And in this same booth, I picked up this swan. I almost bought this swan. The price on it was really good, but I put my finger to the beak, and I realized that it was chipped. It was broken. A lot of times, good vendors will put as is on their tags inside of antique malls. But you got to be careful because some people will not put as is on there. So some people's mindset is that it's going to be in perfect condition. It's still up to you, even though good ethics is that they would put as is on there. It's still up to you as the buyer to, you know, thoroughly check over each item before you buy it. So then we're moving on throughout the antique mall. This is a awesome setup and idea right here. So this booth or vendor has a table and also a shelf full of orphan lids. I always tell you guys about lids. Lids can be very profitable. A lot of times pieces that are broken when it comes to vintage and antique glass are lids. So if you can find lids, check your lids, because a lot of times they can sell for a lot of money, and a lot of times collectors are trying to find lids for their pieces. And even resellers, if a reseller finds an item and they only find the bottom part and they realize they can sell it for 10 times more money if they have the lid, they might invest the money in buying the lid. So definitely that's something to keep your eye out for as far as when you're sourcing. You know, just get familiarized with some of the pieces where that lids can be worth a lot of money for, and obviously you have to be able to get them at the right price. Now I go over here to the Flow Blue section. A lot of this stuff, I'm going to be honest with you, not just in this booth, but in this entire mall, have been here for years. And that's just because a lot of times people price stuff that they don't want to move it. For me, if I'm have an antique booth, when I did have mine, I was pricing stuff to move because I wanted stuff to sell. I don't want it to just sit there. And then it's like you can't bring new stuff in, and then people come and they see that. And one of the things you can tell is when the tag, the ink on the tag is faded. Also, could be a good opportunity for you to see if you can get the vendor to come down on price, because obviously it's been there for a very long time and it hasn't sold at that price. So you might have an opportunity to make an offer if there's something that you're looking to buy for your collection, or maybe even something to flip depending on what your business model is. I really liked this uranium glass display. they had an interesting light. Like literally, when I was picking up this custard shaker, you can kind of like go like under and not under, and it just like automatically, lit up. I thought about this custard shaker, but unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of room for me once again on this piece. This seems to be the theme of the day, but I did want to kind of take this opportunity to still, hopefully give you guys some advice about sourcing within an antique mall. Another good item to keep your eye out for when you are shopping in antique malls are hats. A lot of times you can find good deals on hats. Unfortunately, these hats, there was nothing in here for me. I thought about this one patch trucker hat, but the price was not at my price point. If it's just a hat like that, I'm looking at like $2-3 max. If it would have been like a $100, $200 hat and it was like $15-20, I probably would have bought it. But hats can be a really good thing to keep your eye out for if you're trying to source inside an antique mall. You see these etched glasses right here. This is something to keep your eye out for. I found a bunch of these glasses when I was at the 100 Mile Yard Sale with Cernock and Eric OBX Picker and Leroy and Kevin Commonwealth Picker. And I sold 2 different sets from the same yard sale I picked up. I sold both of those sets. I made almost $400 on those glasses. Obviously, this person knows what they have. They have them in a glass case. So they are well aware of how fragile they are and how valuable they are as well. They also had this really nice Cambridge glass pitcher. Once again, priced a little bit higher than even eBay prices, in my opinion. So I passed on that as well. But really what you want to do when you're going through these antique malls is you want to try your best to, look for the booth prices. Look for items that are outside of what everything else in the booth is. So if somebody might have all toys, but they have a couple pieces of glass, that could be a sign. Somebody has all glass, but they have a couple of hats or T-shirts, that might be a good sign. Do you want to look for booths that have sales, 25%, 50%, things like that? But one thing is, a lot of times people have sales and they use the eBay tactic that a lot of us use, and they mark the prices up so high on each item and then put it at 25% off or 50% off. So you're looking, you're like, oh, this is 50% off. And then you realize that at 50% off, it's still retail value. So be careful. Just because it's 50% off doesn't always mean that it's going to be a bargain. But a lot of times, I'd say 75% of the stuff I buy from antique malls are from booths that are on sale. I did spot this Dallas Cowboys. I can't remember if it's a T-shirt or a sweatshirt. It was vintage, but it was $30, I believe. So definitely, once again, out of my price range in order to find a profit. This U.S. Navy jacket, I've sold this jacket before. This one was a little bit newer, though. I think this was like 80s or 90s. The one I had was from the 60s or 70s. It sold for really good money, though. But if you guys ever see that Navy jacket, that's like a Navy store issued jacket. It'll have like the number and the USN on the jacket on the top left or right corner. Keep your eye out for that when you're out sourcing. And then the last booth that we stop at, she has some, I think it's a she because of the name on the booth, but there is a ton of really nice stuff here. You guys can see all the swung vases. There's Fenton. There's all types of stuff. Pyrex. But I will tell you that these prices are absolutely, in most cases, even higher than eBay prices. A lot of this stuff, 90% of this stuff has been here for the last 2 years, once again. So it's just, it's really difficult. Like, you get excited. And a lot of times, too, this is the thing. Going through antique malls for me, it's not always just about sourcing, right? Obviously, my mind is always on sourcing. And there are some things that I collect, and I keep an eye out for some of those things. Or if I see something that one of my buyers is looking for, I might, pick it up. Or if I see something for Josie or Ma Dukes, I might pick it up. But it's information too. Like sometimes you might see something you've never seen before. You look at it and you see, wow, this is selling for crazy money. Now that information, you could store that information in your mind. So it's almost like an educational field trip too. You know, it's interesting to learn. There's a lot of stuff that you can learn when you go through these antique malls. And not even just that, but for me, I enjoy it because sometimes you just see things that are really, really cool. And I wish I had the money and the space to buy it all, but unfortunately I don't, and most people don't. But it is an educational opportunity. It is fun. And sometimes you find stuff that you can flip for a profit. For us during this, you know, this is a brief shopping trip. This is an antique / flea market mall. We only bought one item, and that item you'll probably be able to buy in one of our upcoming live auctions. We have some live auctions coming up on Whatnot and also on the One Stop Shop. Keep an eye out for both of those. There's links for both of those in the description below, so make sure you guys click on that. You guys are becoming members of the One Stop Shop. Follow us on Whatnot. We're getting closer and closer to probably within the next couple of weeks, we're going to start the big purge where we're just going to be going through boxes and we're going to be pulling stuff out of our boxes and we're going to be selling it or donating it. We're trying to really downsize and resize, if that makes any sense. But we're changing the way that we source and we're changing the way that we buy things, which has been working really well for us. But it's time for us to kind of move on from a lot of the stuff that we have in inventory right now. It's not bad inventory. It's just that, you know, maybe I priced it too high originally, or it's not even listed, or it's a bad listing, bad pictures, bad title from a couple years ago. Who knows? All I know is I'm trying to get more of a fresh start here. So keep an eye out on Instagram. If you guys aren't following us on Instagram, we'll also put up notices in the community feed here on YouTube. Just keep an eye out for all that stuff. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. You guys learned some stuff, had some fun. But we definitely appreciate all the love and the support. If you guys aren't subscribed already, please make sure you subscribe. Hit the thumbs up. We're trying to grow this channel. 2024 is going to be a good year, not just for us, but for you guys too. We appreciate it. But most importantly, YouTube, as always,